Night dripped over the city like a slow-leaking fracture in time. Sirens wailed in the distance, and somewhere, in a cold, sterile courtroom, an old man with a rattled voice was about to change everything. Why would Ismael Mayo Zambada, kingpin of whispers, plead guilty in a U.S. court after years of eluding justice? What broken deal or buried secret forced his hand? Marisol Ortega hadn't meant to be in this courtroom. A junior FBI translator stationed in Chicago, she'd grown up listening to her grandmother's stories of cartel blood on the border. She saw El Mayo not as legend, but as a ghost from those bedtime tales. The courtroom smelled of polished cherry wood, stale coffee, and antiseptic. Fluorescent lights buzzed quietly, echoing in the hush. Marisol sat stiff-backed, feet barely touching the floor, sweat cold beneath her sleeves. Every creased paper, every whisper, held weight. As the judge called for order, Marisol's heart stuttered. The translation she'd handed over, for a side conference just minutes before, contained a phrase only a few knew. A slip, a hint. El Mayo's defense attorney leaned forward, voice low, laced with dread. Your Honor, the plea agreement mentions a code name. He glanced at Marisol, who froze. A tiny crack of doubt spread in her gut. Someone inside was hiding something, not just him. In the break room later, Marisol replayed the recordings. Her screen glowed, muffled voices. Agua Calient, someone whispered, then laughter. Who laughed? The audio was masked. Her fingers hovered over in hearts, but tech limitations silenced her. She found herself pacing the long concrete hallway later, where a court clerk dropped by to ask, "Do you think it's a setup?" The clerk's eyes were haunted. Before Marisol could speak, the clerk disappeared into a door. Panic? Or warning? In the cafeteria, she overheard two men in suits, no badges, speaking in Spanish. Once Mayo folds, the endgame starts. She froze on endgame. Endgame? For whom and what? Marisol's grandmother's lullaby drifted through her memory. Ojos que nada ven. Eyes that don't see still hold the truth. She glanced again at the plea docs. The code name, the strange clause, the observer clause. It all hummed beneath the surface. Going back to the translation booth, she noticed metadata she hadn't before. The recording came from a courthouse feed, and that feed had an odd silence timestamp. The key confession, or whatever was whispered, had been cut. Someone intentionally deleted that snippet. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unrecognized number. Stop digging before you disappear. A slow, exhaling panic settled in her chest, but adrenaline followed. The stakes were so much higher now. In the courtroom again, she noticed El Mayo's voice crack when the prosecutor read an admission of guilt. Not in acing, but in Spanish, barely audible, few orden MOA. It wasn't just a plea. It was an admission of ordering something far worse than trafficking. But the translator, Marisol, recognized that clue. He'd admitted to ordering the murder of a high-ranking official back home, someone close to her own family. As the words airlifted through her mind, "I ordered it," she realized the power dynamic shifted. The kingpin was admitting to personal power, not just criminal empire. And now, Marisol knew the hush-money networks, the local officials, the skeletons. They weren't just about drugs. They were about blood. Later that night, in a dim street near the courthouse, she was followed. Marisol. A deep voice snapped. She spun, heart beating. It was Agent Carter, the lead prosecutor. "You need to tell me what you heard," he said, face tight. "They deleted him saying I ordered it," she whispered, urgency sharp in her tone. The feed was cut. Someone edited it. Carter's eyes narrowed. "You're going against the team." Marisol's breath trembled. "No, I want justice." slammed his fist into his palm. "You think we don't know how much is riding on this deal? You push further, and you're in it alone." Her legs shook. "Then I'll go alone." Her voice brittle. He wheeled away. Marisol breathed in the night's rancid city air. Alone, or not, she knew she'd ignited a fuse. The next morning, they played the full recording in that same courtroom. This time, no deletion. A gasp, court stopped. The audio revealed the full admission. El Mayo had personally orchestrated the killing of a Mexican minister who tried to shut down his tunnels. The judge's gavel barely stayed steady. Justice, for at least one victim, began to find its shape. Papers shifted. Reporters scribbled furiously. Marisol stepped back, chest heavy, a tremor of relief and dread running through her. She'd done something, but shadows remained. In the hush after the storm, she thought of her grandmother's lullaby again, and realized, seeing isn't enough. Sometimes, we must speak what we see. The screen is black. Only Marisol's breath can be heard. Ragged, uneven. Then, a faint click. The sound of the USB drive sliding into her laptop. What she's about to uncover will unravel not only El Mayo's empire, but expose a betrayal so close, so unthinkable, that her own life may never be the same. The courtroom buzzed like a beehive the morning after the uncut audio dropped. Reporters shoved microphones at anyone in a suit, voices rising in overlapping chaos. El Mayo admits murder. Will sentencing change? Did prosecutors cover this up? Marisol walked fast through the courthouse corridor, coat pulled tight, the polished marble floors echoing beneath her steps. She felt the eyes on her. Agents, lawyers, strangers. Watching, judging. Every nerve screamed to stay quiet, to lay low. But the USB drive in her pocket burned like a coal. She hadn't told anyone she'd made a copy. That night, at her apartment, she sat in the dim glow of a single lamp. The city outside was restless. Sirens, honking, muffled shouts. She remembered her grandmother's voice again. Soft but grave. Cartel secrets are like venom. Once they bite you, the poison spreads through everyone you love. Marisol's eyes stung. She whispered aloud, "Then why does it feel like it already started?" 2 days later, while leaving work, Marisol noticed a dark sedan idling by the curb. Same car, 2 days in a row. She slowed, pretending to check her phone. The passenger window rolled down a few inches. A man's voice, flat, chilling, spoke in Spanish. "Stop digging. Agua Caliente isn't yours." Her throat tightened. She forced her steps quicker, slipping into a crowded train entrance before the car could follow. Marisol's fear twisted into anger. That night, she replayed the USB files. Static, muffled speech, then voices she recognized. Not El Mayo's this time. Different. Agent Carter. The prosecutor. If Mayo talks about Agua Caliente, we're finished. Delete it. No one must see it. Marisol froze. Her pulse thundered. Carter wasn't protecting justice. He was protecting something darker, something tied to Agua Caliente. She confronted him the next morning in his office, door closed. "I know," she said, voice low, almost trembling. "You cut the feed. You're hiding something." Carter's eyes narrowed. His jaw flexed. "Careful, Marisol." Her hands shook, but she held her ground. "What is Agua Caliente? Why cover it up?" He leaned closer, breath hot, eyes sharp as blades. "Because it's not about El Mayo anymore. It's about us. And if you say one more word, you won't live to regret it." Marisol staggered out of his office, heart pounding. She felt dizzy, lightheaded, until she realized why. Her coffee, It tasted metallic, bitter. By the time she made it to the restroom, her vision blurred. She clutched the sink, staring at her pale reflection. Someone had tried to poison her. She didn't collapse. Instead, a nurse at the courthouse clinic quietly slipped her an antidote shot. Activated charcoal, the nurse whispered, sliding a vial into Marisol's trembling hand. You didn't hear this from me, but you need to disappear for a while. Marisol blinked. Why are you helping me? The nurse's eyes darted to the hallway. Because aguacaliant isn't just a cartel code. It's a project. And if you don't run now, they'll silence you before you learn the rest. That night, in her apartment, Marisol packed a small bag. But as she reached for the door, a soft scratching sound stopped her. She turned. An envelope lay under the door. No name, just a single line in block letters. They killed your brother. AGUA Caliant equals family. Her chest caved. Her brother, missing for years, presumed a cartel victim. Could this be the truth? The next morning, Marisol fled the city, bus ticket in hand. She didn't notice the man boarding 2 rows behind her, face hidden under a cap. She kept whispering the phrase to herself, aguacaliant equals family. The bus rattled into the night, headlights carving through the desert road. Sleep pressed heavy, but dread kept her awake. At dawn, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She answered, voice raw. Marisol Ortega, the caller said. Male, accented, deliberate. You don't know me, but I knew your brother. He didn't die. He joined aguacaliant. And if you want the truth, come alone. The camera closes in on Marisol's face, pale and trembling as the desert sun bleeds over the horizon. The bus engine growls. She grips the USB drive tighter, knuckles white. Behind her, the man with the cap slowly stands, pulling something metallic from his jacket. The screen cuts to black, and a single whisper fills the silence. She knows too much. The bus cut through the desert like a slow-moving coffin on wheels. The morning light burned across the horizon, but inside, shadows thickened. Marisol clutched the USB drive in her hand, heartbeat pounding like war drums. Behind her, the man in the cap stood, something metallic glinting in his hand. Was she seconds from death, or about to meet the person who held the answers to her brother's disappearance? The metallic object lifted higher. Marisol tensed, body rigid, eyes squeezed shut. But instead of a gunshot, she heard a soft click. A pen. The man scribbled in a notebook, then slid into the seat across from her. He lowered his cap, revealing tired, amber eyes. You're Marisol Ortega, he said in Spanish, voice low but steady. And you're in danger. If you want to survive, get off at the next stop. Don't argue. Just trust me. Marisol hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to trust strangers. But the way he said her last name, it wasn't casual. He knew her. Who are you? She demanded. The man's jaw clenched. Someone who owed your brother a debt. He leaned closer. And if you stay on this bus, you won't live to ask another question. Her stomach dropped. Against every fiber of fear, she followed him off the bus. They walked for miles down a dusty road until reaching an abandoned adobe house at the edge of a dried-up orchard. The air smelled of rot and rusted metal. Inside, the man shut the door with a firm thud. My name is Daniel Vega, he said, setting down his bag. Your brother, Louis, was alive when I last saw him. And yes, he was working for aguacaliant. Marisol's knees buckled. She grabbed a cracked wooden chair, knuckles white. You're lying, she whispered. Louis would never. Daniel shook his head sharply. He didn't choose. They made him. Daniel pulled out a folder, worn spread photos across the table. Images of tunnels, stacks of money, government seals. But one photo made Marisol's blood run cold. Louis, her brother, alive, thinner, eyes hollow, but alive, standing beside uniformed men she didn't recognize. Her breath shattered. Tears stung her eyes. Daniel spoke slowly. Agua Caliente isn't a cartel cell. It's a joint operation. Cartel money, yes, but protected by powerful people on both sides of the border. They used your brother as leverage, and now they'll use you. Marisol's hands shook as she touched the photo. If he's alive, why hasn't he come back? Daniel's expression darkened. Because he knows too much. And once you know too much, he gestured to her USB drive. They own you, or they bury you. Suddenly, a noise outside. Gravel crunching. A car door slamming shut. Daniel's face paled. They found us. The windows shattered as bullets ripped through the adobe walls. Marisol screamed, ducking under the table as dust exploded around her. Daniel grabbed her arm. Run! They crashed through the back door, sprinting into the orchard. Branches clawed at Marisol's arms as footsteps pounded behind them. A voice shouted in Spanish, "Atrapenla! Don't let her get away!" They dove into a drainage ditch, breath ragged, bodies pressed into the mud. A black SUV roared past, headlights sweeping like searchlights. In the silence after, Marisol's chest heaved. Tears streaked through the grime on her face. "I just want my family back," she whispered. Daniel's voice softened. "Then you need to decide. Will you run from this, or expose it? Because if you keep going, there's no turning back." And the narrator's voice lingers. Marisol thought she had found her brother. But in chasing the truth, she may have been chasing a ghost. The room was silent except for Marisol's ragged breathing. Daniel lay bleeding on the floor, Carter's gun trained on her chest. And then came the words that broke her world. "Louis isn't dead. He's been working for me all along." Her mind spun, heart crashing against her ribs. Could her brother, the boy who once protected her from bullies, who read poetry under the orange trees at night, truly be part of this? The truth was seconds away. The motel door creaked again. Heavy footsteps entered. Marisol's eyes locked on the figure in the doorway. A man, taller, hardened by years, but unmistakable. "Louis," she whispered, tears burning her eyes. He didn't smile. His gaze was cold, unreadable. He wore tactical gear, a gun holstered at his side. And behind his stern mask, something darker. "I told you not to come looking for me," Louis said, voice low, gravelly. Marisol stepped forward, hands trembling. "You're alive. After all these years, you're alive." Louis didn't embrace her. He didn't even move. He just looked at Carter, then back at her. "She's seen too much," he muttered. Her chest cracked like glass. "Louis, you can't mean that. You're my brother." He swallowed hard, eyes flickering with something. Regret, pain, conflict. "I was your brother. But the world we live in doesn't care about blood. Agua Caliente made me choose survival." Carter smirked, circling like a vulture. "See, Marisol? He gets it. Justice, loyalty, truth, those are fairy tales. Your brother learned the hard way. You should too." Marisol's eyes burned with fury. "No, you broke him. You twisted him. This isn't survival, it's slavery." She dropped to her knees beside Daniel, who weakly whispered, "Don't let them win, Marisol. Truth is worth dying for." Her brother flinched at those words. Memories seemed to flicker across his face. Nights with family, laughter, a sister who believed in him. Carter barked, loyalty. He shoved the gun toward him. Luis's hands shook. His breathing grew ragged. Marisol met his eyes. "Luis," she whispered, "you told me once that our family's strength was love. You said love was our shield. Don't let them take that from us." Tears welled in his eyes. The mask cracked. In a blur, Luis turned the gun, not on Marisol, but on Carter. A shot rang out. Carter staggered back, eyes wide in disbelief, then collapsed. The room fell silent. Luis's chest heaved, gun clattering to the floor. Marisol rushed forward, clutching him in her arms. "You came back to me," she sobbed. Luis shook his head. "No, I was never gone. I was lost. And you found me again." Paramedics arrived minutes later, saving Daniel from death. Federal agents stormed in, alerted by Carter's betrayal, and seized the evidence. The Aguacalian files, now exposed, began dismantling the operation piece by piece. Weeks passed. Luis chose to testify, to trade survival for redemption. It wasn't easy, redemption never is, but for the first time in years, Marisol felt the chains of fear loosening. She walked out of the courthouse one morning, the sun warming her face. Life wasn't simple, and it never would be, but she understood now what her grandmother's lullaby meant. Marisol's voice lingers as the narrator. Justice isn't about winning. It's about refusing to surrender to silence. Family isn't perfect. People break. People fall. But love gives us the courage to call them back from the edge. She looks into the camera, eyes wet but steady. The world will try to convince you that truth doesn't matter, that loyalty is weakness, that power is everything. But the truth is this: power without love is nothing, and love without courage will never survive. She pauses, her voice soft but resolute. Courage is doing what's right, even when your hands are shaking, even when the world says to stop digging. The screen fades to black with one final quote. "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Romans 12 verse 21.
The case may end here, but the questions don't. Don't let the trail fade into silence. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the notification bell so you're with us when the next story breaks. Because in the shadows of crime, the smallest clue can change everything. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. Stay with us. Behind the crime.